Hi everyone, welcome again to one of our author chats here at NCTE. My name is Lisa White. I work in the marketing department here at Albert Whitman and Company. And today I'm so excited to be joined by Ashley Rhodes-Courter. She has a new book coming out with us this spring, Sam is My Sister. It is a book about siblings, Evan, who loves their big brother Sam and Finn. And they do work together. Well, actually, I'll let you actually tell about the book, Ashley. But I do want to just tell everyone a few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions at all during the chat, you can use the chat function to ask us a question, and I'll make sure to ask Ashley. If you have any questions about the book, you can actually reach out to us at marketing@albertwhitman.com. We're happy to give you any information. Like I said, Sam is My Sister is the book. It is coming out in March of next year, and it is a picture book. It's for age groups 4 to 8 and grades P to 3. Ashley, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us about Sam is My Sister.
Hello, friends. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to share. This is my very first picture book, so it was quite the learning experience and learning curve, but my background is in nonfiction. So writing has always been very therapeutic for me and a way to process the world around me. My two other books are Three Little Words and Three More Words, and those chronicle my experiences growing up in the foster care system. And again, nonfiction has always been such a powerful medium for me, but going from YA to picture books, I mean, we're talking a whole different ball game. So much new information to learn. And so that was a really exciting opportunity. But Sam is My Sister is all about real life experiences that my family has. Our eldest kiddo is adopted from the foster care system and happens to be transgender. And Sam socially transitioned in kindergarten. And when this was happening, there weren't a lot of resources available. This was years ago. So we had a couple of staples in our children's library, but as a parent, I was desperately trying to find resources and ways to educate Sam's teachers and friends. And it's very confusing and overwhelming. And at the time, there weren't a lot of trans advocates. And so I was just I did what I know. And so I was writing and journaling and just using the written word and books to help educate ourselves as well as those around us while our kiddo was transitioning. And this book was very much inspired by observing the dynamics of all three of my children. And it was just really beautiful to see the power of unconditional love. And here's a topic that can be really scary and overwhelming and these days, politically charged, but this was a chance to share our story of just loving one another and hopefully starting the conversation on how to create more inclusive classrooms, how to provide resources for families who have a variety of interesting diversities. And I hope that this will be a platform for people to read about what our personal experiences have been and perhaps be motivated to ensure that their classrooms and their homes and their communities, service providers. I'm a clinical social worker myself, so it's just so imperative for me personally and professionally to ensure that all children feel safe and are heard, particularly when they go to school and when they are in classrooms, when they are in their community. So hopefully our story can serve as an example of one of thousands of young people going through very similar circumstances.
For sure. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the actual plot of the book? And because, like you said, it is based on your family's experience, but the characters and the storyline might be a little different. So, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that as well.
Of course. So the storyline is a little bit different than a lot of the firsthand experiences that are already out there. There are so many incredible stories that are from a firsthand perspective. This book, Sam is My Sister, actually takes the perspective of our son, Evan, who is a cis kiddo. He identifies as being a boy, being male, and it was so interesting to see how the sibling dynamic was impacted by Sam's transition. So this book is a little bit different than others that are out there because it tells the perspective of the siblings. And as opposed to being from Sam's perspective as the trans kiddo, the book is actually from the perspective of Evan, who is Sam's sibling.
Yeah. And then also I know there are some really great resources as well. Did you want to talk about that? That's included in the back of the book too?
Yes, that was one of the most exciting elements of having the opportunity to work with Albert Whitman and Co. as my publisher, and even the illustrator, Mackenzie Haley. Everyone that's been a part of this project and team has an unbelievable passion for education and resources. So unlike my other experiences, I mean, this was just absolutely incredible to have the chance to have this be truly a tool for parents and professionals who engage with young people. It was so important to me that we're not just telling a story, we're not just putting something out there flippantly. There are resources that are connected with this book that not only open up conversations, but help provide direction so that those reading this book together with their children in their classrooms, perhaps as a social worker. So that's what I love about this project, is that it really opens the door for other resources that are available. And this is going to be an incredible way for continuing education opportunities and for really having tangible takeaways for parents and professionals who are working with LGBTQ plus youth and families.
Definitely. Now, as a parent, what is one thing that you wish, especially, as your child was going through the process of transitioning, what is something that you wish that teachers would have known, or thought about, that was something that you came across in a classroom setting?
I think it's really important for people to have open minds and open hearts and realize that trans people and trans children have existed forever. This is not something new. This is not something that's just trendy and is just happening. This is a result of children having access to words and descriptors and opportunities more so than ever before. So I think it can feel very jarring for some people who are totally unfamiliar with this concept that, oh, well, how can a child make such a huge decision? Well, I hope that this book will help dispel myths that exist with a child, especially, again, this is a children's book. So these are issues that can be talked about with young children. There is always an age appropriate way to explain to a child and to explain to people how to be compassionate, how to be observant, how to honor other people. And for Sam, Sam was this way from day one. And we just happened to have a library full of options and books, and we let Sam identify for herself who she was. And that hasn't wavered and changed. So we started noticing that there were kind of the gender norms didn't really apply with Sam. And we didn't think anything of it. Toys don't have a gender. Anybody can play with any toy. Anybody can play with any kind of crayons. In our family, we just really believe books are for everyone, colors are for everyone. And so when Sam, though born biologically male, assigned male at birth, this was like the sparkliest, happiest, most fabulously flamboyant little one we had ever experienced. And we just let Sam guide the way, tell us who they were, what they liked, what their preferences were. We provided books that talked about different issues, whether it was LGBTQ plus issues, whether it was books about cisgendered boys who liked sparkly things, whether it was families that had two moms or two dads. We celebrate diversity of all forms in our family. And we were able to come across books that really gave Sam that voice and that certainty and gave words to the things that she was feeling and experiencing. And once she started expressing a lot of that, we consulted experts and doctors and therapists and surrounded ourselves with professional support systems and other families who have experienced similar things. And I hope that educators and parents come to the plate with, again, those open hearts and open minds, because this can be a very intimidating issue. But I guarantee that you have children in your classroom who know someone who's LGBTQ plus, or they themselves identify as part of the community. I hope that our society makes a dedication to embrace queerness in all forms, because diversity is incredibly beautiful. And there are a lot of misconceptions about transgender children. People assume that there's these medical interventions happening, and they sort of jump ahead. But all transitions are different. All trans people are different, and kiddos know who they are. They just don't always have the words to express it. So I hope that this is just one tool of many to help give young people and families the option and know that they are not alone, to know that there are kids who are out there who are different. Our other two children are just as secure about who they are as Sam is about who she is. And that's not influence. That's not an internet trend. These are really young kids who, when given the opportunity to express who they are, really beautiful things have happened. And we feel so fortunate that we are in a community that's been really supportive. And we have family from all walks of life, very conservative family, very liberal family. This isn't a political issue. This is compassion, and this is love, and this is wrapping our arms around all of our young people so that they can thrive and survive and be the best versions of themselves possible.
Definitely. And I think you really hit the nail on the head as just, I think for anyone that is in a classroom setting or in any sort of setting where they're talking, with kids that might be exploring who they are, just really letting them take the lead, like you said. And that's the great thing about this book. Sam is able to, say to her, her brothers, like, I'm a girl, but like the things I like and the things that we do together, none of that's going to change. Like I'm just me. And I think that is such a key thing of this, is just really following a kid's lead and not trying to place them in some specific idea of what they're supposed to be. But just let them kind of explore and express themselves and listen to them. And I think that's such a key thing with this book, and just the idea in general in a classroom is, let the kid take the lead.
Well, and what was so powerful as a parent was that I didn't realize, as a parent and a clinical social worker, you're taught to check your implicit bias and your assumptions. And I found that, even as open-minded as I thought that I was, our society is very binary. And in the book, we show a scene where Sam is coming off the playground and they say, okay, girls in one line, boys in the other. And that's such a common practice in schools. But Sam, again, totally on her own, says, well, where do I go? And that was so powerful. So everything that is written about in Sam is My Sister are events that really happened and milestones that we really experienced. And it was just so eye-opening to see the world through a different lens. And, when babies, we have these gender reveal parties, and, oh, it's, pink for girl and blue for boy. And we don't realize that even in our classroom and in our day-to-day practices, how we really push these norms and these gender stereotypes that for a child like Sam, or for even, like, I'll be honest, my boys love to have their nails painted. They like to have crazy socks. They would describe themselves as boys, but somewhere along the line, they're told, oh, boys can't paint their nails. That's not okay. And it really stifles creativity and sensitivity and kindness. And I don't want to see these amazing elements of kids get snuffed out because someone along the way believes that boys can't be creative, girls can't play sports. I hope that more than just share our story, this book really helps to dispel stereotypes and myths and gives license to kids to be anything they want to be, anyone they feel they are. Having kids feel powerful enough to express their authentic selves is such an amazing opportunity that I hope will potentially save lives.
For sure. And a great thing, about this book, it is Sam's experience. But also like this beautiful idea that like when you look at it, like there is no, this idea of gender nonconformity. Anyone looking at this book, they don't have to just subscribe to one gender or the other to like things. They can like whatever they want. They can be who they want to be. And I think that's something that's so important for kids that feel like they don't really, like you said, if someone says it's a boy, line up as boys or girls, it's some kids don't feel like they identify in either of those situations. So this is a great kind of book that celebrates, being just who you are as you.
Well, and I think going back to the resources that are available with this book, there are such simple fixes. So, even things instead of saying, hey, ladies and gentlemen, there are so many other ways to address a crowd or a classroom. So instead of lining up girls in this line, boys in this line, there are resources like welcomingschools.org, which is sponsored by the Human Rights Campaign and their foundation and all the work that they do. You can line up by height, by hair color, by shirt color. There are so many easy fixes to create more inclusive classrooms, more trauma-informed classrooms. And so again, I hope that this book is just one story of thousands that exist. And I hope that this is a chance for people to have a willingness to learn something new and bring those more inclusive practices into their classrooms, into their communities, and into their homes.
Definitely. And I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. Now, you did mention HRC a little bit. I do know that you are involved with the Parents for Transgender Equality Council. Do you want to talk a little bit about your work with them?
Oh, I'd be delighted. I'm incredibly honored to be a part of the Parents for Transgender Equality Council with the Human Rights Campaign. So the Human Rights Campaign is an incredible national organization that does work all over the world, and they are really special in that they provide so many resources and continuing education and trainings. So it's multifold. My work with them is multifold because they also have an entire division called ACAF. So they work with foster and adoption and foster care. And I grew up in foster care myself. And so that was one of the first opportunities that I had to be involved with them, is exploring how all children and all families are honored and celebrated. And so the All Children, All Families division of HRC has tons of continuing education and specific trainings for people who work in the child welfare system. But the Parents for Transgender Equality Council has connected me to the most incredible young people who inspire me every day, other parents who are going through a lot of similar things that we are. So we're able to be a support network for other parents whose children are expressing different identity circumstances, whether they feel like they are trans, non-binary. It's about having that support system. And in a world where there can be a lot of misinformation and a lot of circumstances that aren't so kind and aren't so welcoming, it's incredible to partner with an organization that not only is bringing about awareness, but provides tangible tools on how to bridge those gaps and bridge those barriers and create safer, cohesive spaces for all children and all families. So that is an incredible resource for educators and parents and professionals. Whether you are a social worker like moi and work in foster care and adoption, the All Children, All Families is a great resource. For educators, welcomingschools.org is fantastic. They have tons of trainings, book, lesson plans. And so again, that's part of what I hope Sam as my sister will do, is start that conversation and help dispel myths, but also make resources accessible to people who are genuinely trying to make changes. This isn't pushing an agenda. This is just embracing reality and making sure that all children feel safe and protected and loved and valued. And I think that was one of the biggest motivators for putting this project forward, is that as a parent, when all of this was happening, I had my social worker hat and I had my parent hat. I said, okay, well, I'm a mom. How am I going to help my child? And the most horrifying thing for me in researching all of these issues is the number one thing that I was receiving as a parent, and the primary information I was also receiving through my avenues as a clinical social worker, everything centered on, how do we keep these kids alive? And that was so powerful and perhaps a little bit heavy to bring up, but that's the reality. LGBTQ plus youth experience astronomically higher numbers of bullying, of suicide. I mean, the violence against trans people, particularly trans people of color, it's staggering. And the idea that that could be my child, that my child's life is devalued or could be in jeopardy simply because of who she is, it brings you to your knees. And so, though this is a very vulnerable project and one that has a lot of complicated elements, I hope that it will be a source for someone to maybe feel like they're learning, they're growing, they're embracing something that might feel uncomfortable. But this isn't about appeasing. I want people to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because these children are amazing and deserve our support and deserve our love. And because there are so many incredible resources and ways to make all kids feel valued and loved and heard, I hope that that's the primary message and the primary objective of books like this, is to have the world be a safer, better, more loving place for kids like Sam.
For sure. And I think too, educators and people in publishing, myself included, that are part of the LGBTQ community, you know, we're living lives now that where we feel more inclusive and we feel more proud of who we are and more secure in our identity. But we didn't have that as a resource growing up for a lot of us. So you're seeing a lot of educators, a lot of folks in publishing where we know how important these books are, because if we had had these kind of books, it would have made such a world of difference for us as kids. So I think it's such an important thing, that a lot of people understand now, just, what the lack of resources was before and how it can make such a difference for kids nowadays, especially at an earlier age, to just be able to see themselves reflected or understood in a book.
Absolutely. And again, even a few years ago, things have changed so much since our family was seeking those resources. And though we do live in a much more inclusive world, there's still much work to be done. So I hope to use this as an opportunity to raise the voices of other trans children and families, and have people embrace their quirkiness, embrace their queerness, embrace their friends and family members who maybe, as they say, dance to the beat of their own drum. I hope that these differences are celebrated in our society, because we certainly celebrate them in our family.
Definitely. Now, we just have a few minutes left, but I do want to say, like you said, this was your first picture book. How was there any surprises for you as an author? You did your memoirs before, but how was this different? Has anything been really surprising for you or interesting that you found out while doing this, while writing Same as My Sister?
Okay, so writing Sam as My Sister in so many ways was infinitely harder than writing my other books, because the word, like, I tend to be a little wordy. If there wasn't a time limit on this little Q&A session here, I would be going all afternoon. So I tend to be very long-winded. You can't do that in a picture book. And so all of these creative elements are quite different. So the creative process is very, very different for a picture book than it is for YA or memoir. It was such a learning curve. And so that was something that was really important to me. I cannot tell you the number of people I consulted. I was like, hey, you want to read this manuscript? I'd love your thoughts. So I had so many people that I wanted input, because you have a very small space to make a big impact. And so you have to choose your words so carefully. But one of the really exciting pieces was getting to work with an illustrator for the first time. And I was matched with Mackenzie Haley, who is just absolutely amazing. And I think that was a really powerful element, is to see how art can further evolve the written word. And it wasn't just, reading something and writing something and having these pictures in my head. It was really this cohesive package. And so getting to work with more of a team for a picture book has been really exciting and really inspiring. And that's a very, I think, when I was working on my memoirs, it was a much more linear process. It was kind of plunking away, but let's be honest, this was way more fun, even though ironically a lot more work. And people think, oh, picture books are so easy, oh, how silly. Yeah, not so much.
A lot of work that goes
I think that's the misconception, is, oh, well, picture books are so easy. Nope, totally different learning curve.
It's a lot of like people that are very passionate, like people that work in picture books. We all really are passionate about the picture books. So it's, there's a lot of heart in it. So everyone that's working on it cares a lot. So you like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's everyone that's really super excited about it. So
Well, and there's nothing really, nothing is wasted. And I think the passion that has gone into this project from all sides was really unique, because there is not an inch of a page that is wasted on art, on text, font matters, like all of these creative elements were so exciting to learn. And it was very humbling and just really thrilling. But I think the most magical part was reading an advanced reader copy with my children and hearing them laugh and hearing their own voices in the story kind of it's so powerful. And also having the opportunity to work alongside my children with this project, because their consent was invaluable and an absolute critical part of this. So we share this part of our family very openly. And though they're still young children, so they're not going to be out and about and sort of in front, they were a part of every single step. So I think this will be something that forever bonds our family. And I hope that other families can experience that same closeness and togetherness and the same joy that we have.
for sure. We do have a question from Kevin. He said, I thank you for your advocacy. It's an important story to tell. I teach at college and often have my students tell from a lens other than their own. What lens would you have my students read your book to help it impact them in a different way?
I think it would really depend on how you want to use the book. The special part about this book is that not only does it lend a platform to evaluate a story from a different perspective. So, I think of like my memoirs. So my story could have been told me as the foster child, or Sam as my sister could have been the story from Sam's perspective, but we chose to have it be from a sibling's perspective, because that was something fresh, that was something different, that was something that hadn't been done before. So I think a project like this gives you opportunity to have a lived experience be told through the lens of all of the people that are involved, but also it gives space for that professional lens. So you could read a book like Sam is My Sister and say, okay, well, if I were an educator, how can I make my classroom more inclusive? If I'm a social worker, how can I be more mindful of working with LGBTQ plus families? So it really gives an audience for a variety of readers. It's not just a book for parents who have children who are gender nonconforming, or, this book gives opportunity to have a variety of perspectives and a variety of impact. And that's really what I wanted to showcase, because there are a lot of other stories out there that are from that firsthand perspective. But this really opens up a platform for a variety of voices to be shared and heard and influenced, whether you're a parent, a child, or a professional. So I would encourage you to dissect the book and have all angles be expressed and explored. Because I really, again, as a clinical social worker myself, I'm hoping that this is not only a story, but a tool that can be used in classrooms, universities, and have it be a super cute jumping off point for some deeper conversations.
For sure. Now we are going to wrap up. I do want to make sure that Ashley, if you'd like to share where everyone can follow you online on social media and your website.
Oh, yes. So I'm a real life person, a real life mom. So my name is Ashley Rhodes-Courter. All of my social media handles are at Rhodes-Courter, all one word, or rhodes-courter.com.
Great. And then also, if you do want to find Ashley's website, you can go to albertwoodman.com, look up Same as My Sister, click on her bio, website, Twitter, everything is there as well. Once again, the book is Same as My Sister. It'll be out this March 2021. It is available for pre-order now wherever your favorite book is sold. Definitely keep an eye out as we enter into spring. We'll have a lot more fun stuff featuring the book on our social media as well, albertwhitman.com. Like I said, this Q&A today has been recorded. If you did miss any of it, you'd like to watch again, it will be up in our booth at NCTE tomorrow as well. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have any questions about the book, you can reach out at marketing@albertwhitman.com. Thank you for joining us. We hope you all have a great time at NCTE. Bye, everyone.
Bye.